some of them would have been wildflowers too. The weeds were higher than she had ever seen them in all the years she and Albert had come to that solitary place to clean the graves of his parents. About the only time he left the house was to clean his parents' graves, and now he was in his own. He had spent almost his entire life in the cemetery. Poor Albert. Tears of gratitude came to Florine's eyes. She had married her only chance. She hadn't loved him, not at first anyway, but she was so grateful that he had saved her from being one of those women that men joked about and little boys teased, that they had both accepted as love. Every day of her married life, she had gotten up early to make biscuits and then waited for his nod of approval. And it had never been more than that. Now she wasn't so particular. At first, after Albert died, she baked the biscuits hoping someone would come by to eat them, and then she just stopped entirely. She had been so embarrassed the first time she went to the store and bought canned biscuits. She knew she had flushed the way Coy Tuck had looked at her. She hadn't felt that way since the first time that she had bought female products at the store. And Coy, he had only been a pimple-faced boy then, working at his father's store, had winked at her. She hated him for knowing, first when she was pubescent, then when she ceased being fertile, and now that she was a widow, for knowing she had stopped doing those things that had made her a wife. You must have plumb wore out your rolling pin, Coy said, with that high-pitched howl he thought was laughter. I hope it wasn't on Albert. After Albert's death, it had taken her several days to find something to do with herself in the morning. Finally, she started taking her coffee out on the porch and looking over the country the way Albert did. I don't think there's anyone living at the open house place anymore, he'd say. He never went to see, and she hadn't either. Poor Albert. He had never cursed her or hit her the way some men did their wives. He had never humiliated her with other women. He had never asked her to be pretty for him, or entertaining, or informed. But he expected her to be busy. He couldn't stand to see her hands idle. If she sat down, he always asked her to fetch something for him. He never liked to go any place he'd never been, or do anything different. And the time she made chicken cacciatore, she never did get him to taste it. Albert didn't like anything foreigners ate. He told her to never pull a trick like on him again. He didn't want no surprises. Their daughter had been surprised enough, just the one child, and that was a girl. And he thought she had spoiled Stella and taught her to be ashamed of them and their way of life. Stella always wanted something different, something better. Lord only knew where she was now. Every year, why couldn't you raise a natural daughter that would get married to some man that could help me and have kids that would give you something to do, he used to ask. Stella had always had her nose stuck in a book, and as Albert said, it was Florine's fault. She had encouraged Stella to read, even borrowed books for her. Stella was good in school, and she had gone off to college. Albert didn't like that, no need of it, and it gave her funny notions. He wouldn't help Stella, but the college let her go free. Albert didn't like that either. Not their place. Stella didn't come home much when she was in college, and when she did, she and her father always fought. He was afraid she would marry a city boy, maybe from a different state. When Stella told him she wasn't going to be a teacher, Albert had been furious. Zoology? You gonna work at a zoo? You have to go to college to throw hay at elephants and shovel cows? I could have taught you that right here if you had gotten your nose out of them books. Stella said she wasn't coming home anymore, but she did, once. before she went off to study hyenas in some place in Africa. Albert didn't know much about hyenas, but he knew that decent people didn't have a whole lot of respect for them. He prays that his daughter prefers living with hyenas to getting married, having children, and living a natural life. While they're nothing but scavengers taking leftovers from lions and laughing, that's what they're called, laughing hyenas. Stella wrote from time to time, mostly about the hyenas. They were sturdy, if ugly beasts, she wrote. Although scavengers, they also preyed on the weak and had been known to bring down old lions. They had massive teeth and jaws that splintered the strongest bones. Florine shuddered at the thought of Stella being caught in such jaws. Albert scoffed at Stella's letters. She wrote that hyenas were not related to dogs, and that according to a native myth, every hyena was both male and female. I've never been to college or to Africa either, but I know that hyenas are dogs. And even the most ignorant man alive knows that nothing is both male and female. It ain't natural. You're either a male or a female, and that's all there is to it. Albert insisted that Stella's letters were not natural. She never wrote about recipes, children, or sewing circle. Albert wouldn't have read the letters if Stella had written about recipes. Nevertheless, sometimes he said he was sorry they had a daughter. Maybe if there had been more children, you wouldn't have had the time to ruin the one we did have. Stella didn't know her father had died until he was already in his grave. Albert would have insisted that it wasn't natural, but Stella didn't have a telephone, and it took weeks for her to get a letter. She couldn't have come anyway, but she asked her mother to come see her, even offered to pay her way. Florine thought about it sometimes, and when she did, her heart froze. She would have to drive to Wichita Falls, catch a bus to Dallas, an airplane to God knew where. And there were lions and gorillas and chippies living with hyenas and sleeping on the ground with snakes. She was lonely, but she was familiar with loneliness, almost comfortable. Florine gathered up the weeds, the dried up flowers from her last visit, and the trash that had blown up around the grave, and placed them in the cardboard box she had brought for that purpose. She wondered what they had done with the trash barrel. She stood up gingerly, straightening her back, and looked around. She saw a man in blue overalls bent over a grave. "Yoo-hoo," she called softly. "I wonder if you could tell me what I'm supposed to do with this." The man came over, took the box, and dumped it behind the little shed. He was polite, but she didn't mean for him to do it. He came back and handed her the box. It was about her age, but tall and straight. "Thank you," she said. "I could have done it myself." He smiled out at her. It was a nice smile. He had all his teeth and they were clean. "Don't get much chance to have a pretty lady anymore," he said. He hadn't gone to fat or terminal wrinkles the way some men had. "Not since I buried my wife. Maynard Brewster is my name." She recognized the name as a respected one on the other side of the county. A landed farmer, Republican, probably a Baptist. The Brewsters weren't cheerful, good-looking folks. Maynard took off his hat. His hair was clean and used it to point at a bouquet of gravestones. "Them are Juanita's folks over there, but I put her over here with my family. She'll be on one side of me and my mother on the other." "How nice," Florine said. "I've been looking on the grave, working on the graves, her family's and mine all morning, and I'm plumb tuckered out." "I got a little something in the basket," she said. She was tired of the house. Lord, it seemed like she had spent her entire life there. So she brought a picnic to eat under a shade tree. I'd be proud to share with you, she said. She hadn't talked to anybody for weeks. Besides, she shivered a little inside, an adventure. I thank you kindly, he said. He led her to a part of the cemetery she had never visited before. She wasn't one for reading tombstones, but one caught her eye. Henry Holcomb, February 14, 1908. November 7, 1959. Fathered 31 children. 51 years old. Cruel man had killed himself fathering kids. And how many women did he wear out, she wondered. How many women had he sent to their graves? And who would put that on his gravestone? Fathering 31 children. Certainly not his wives. She couldn't find a monument to one of them. Nothing about mother of 2 children, 20 children, 15, 12. And certainly his children hadn't put such a thing on his marker. They would have put reared 31 children or provided for 31 children. Why would anybody be proud of something that came as effortlessly to a man as tears to a woman? And naturally, too. And who had done the harvesting, she wondered. Who had watered and weeded the crop? No one but a man would have been puffed up about that, she decided. Probably the old scoundrel had asked that a testimony to his seating be written on his tombstone, and his lodge brothers had complied. She could see the pack of them howling at how lodge brother Henry Holcomb had flung wore himself out seating children. Without having ever known the man, Florine disliked him. And imagine him sitting out on the porch, fanning himself and ordering his wife around. She limping on swollen feet and bumping into things with her extended belly. Poor, disheartened, ill-used thing. Florine disliked her too. Maynard had picked a spot under a post oak tree, put down a gunny sack he had used to kneel on while weeding the grave, placed the basket on it, and was waiting impatiently for her. What were you reading? He said. Delicacy forbade her to answer, that she had been studying how easy it was for a man to make a memorial to himself. She hurried to open the basket and invited him to eat. They talked about the spring rain and all the wildflowers, and she didn't mind too much that he scarcely noticed how she was eating carrot sticks because he had helped himself to the sandwich. Men were just that way. She remembered the times when there wasn't much to eat, and she had tried to hide from Albert how little she was eating so that he could have all he needed for the hard work on the farm. She had been surprised how easy it was to convince him that she wasn't hungry and that she really preferred chicken necks and sometimes a wing for a special treat, and that she didn't really like the cake. Her mother brought the cake as a token of appreciation that her daughter had gotten a man. It had been a 5-layer chocolate cake. Florine had gotten pleasure out of watching the way Albert ate, smacking his lips and sucking his teeth to show his enjoyment. She had suffered guilt for months for having taken a piece of the cake while he was at work after having vowed that he could have every bite of it. She was certain that he looked at her strangely that night when she put the cake before him, and he cut off a double portion, but he didn't chide her. And she was so grateful and felt so kindly toward him that he had called her silly in bed that night. I think we met, Maynard was saying about Albert. Kind of pleased with himself, wasn't he? They had met. Like he'd done what he wanted to do. It was Florine Albert hadn't been pleased with, and Stella. Every man wants to create a masterpiece before he dies, Maynard said. How nice, Florine thought. She didn't think Albert wanted to create a masterpiece. He certainly never said anything about it. But we never had a son. We kept trying, Maynard said. He sighed. I guess she did the best she could. Had 4 daughters. They're all married and got kids. Juanita did right with them that way. Florine felt a twinge of fear. How many grandkids you got? Stella, our only daughter, is in Africa, Florian said and hesitated. She lives with hyenas. Maynard stared at her for a moment, and she was certain he was going to say that he wasn't natural. But his thoughts were elsewhere. She was a good woman. Maynard was talking about his dead wife. I'm going to miss her cooking. This here sandwich was real good too. Of course, I don't eat much bought bread. Hard on the bowels. He patted his bowels. I'm sorry I didn't bake yesterday, she said, feeling flustered. Buy a loaf of bread and everybody in the county knew about it. Pay for her eating, he said, wiping his mouth on the napkin and handing it to her to put away instead of putting it in the basket himself. I haven't been eating so well lately, except when one of my daughters brings something. I'll bet you're a good cook, she said, and saw the flare of anger in his eyes. I'm a man, he said. And when she didn't reply, he softened a little. A man needs someone to see that he eats right and has clean clothes to wear. And a woman needs someone to protect her. That sounded so nice that Florine wanted to snuggle into Maynard's arms and be protected from what? I was married for 40 years, and the only thing Albert protected me from was spinsterhood, she said. Well, a woman needs someone to take her places. I got a car, Florine said. Juanita didn't drive, no need for her to. She didn't go gallivanting around the country like some women do. If she needed to go someplace, I saw to it that she got there and that she got home safe. Florine started to explain, but thought better of it. It was her car, and she could go any place she wanted. Why, she could drive to Wichita Falls if she wanted to. The thought almost took her breath away. She wouldn't know how to drive in Wichita Falls. She wouldn't know where to park. The one time Albert took her to Wichita Falls, he forbade her to cross the street for fear she would get lost. I reckon I'm talking about companionship, he said. Being there when you're sick and when the kids don't write and when you just want to tell somebody about the rain or such. Florine was surprised at the tug she felt. The nesting instinct was still there. She had almost forgotten how strong it had been when Albert had come courting. I don't know how many years I got left, Maynard said, and I want to do things. I aim to learn leathercraft. She too wanted to do things. It wasn't too late. Not that she didn't let it be too late. Have you ever thought about going to Wichita Falls and eating in a restaurant, she asked, feeling breathless at being so bold? I don't drive in Wichita Falls, he said. The people there try to run country folks off the road. And I wouldn't eat in no restaurant when I got a daughter that lives in Bourbonnais. I just call her and tell her to come get me. She'd feed me and put me up in the kids' room. She would drive to Wichita Falls and eat in a restaurant by herself. And if she got lost, she could feel her heart thumping against her thin chest. She'd go to a service station and ask some man. I thought maybe if she was of mine, I might drop by some evening and talk for a spell, Maynard said. About supper time, Florine thought. But she was tired of eating alone, being alone with no one to talk to and nothing to do. Cooking for Maynard would be something to do, and she could please him with her biscuits. She was certain of that. She thought for a moment of Coy. His face when she bought baking soda, he'd know she was seeing a man. She would drive to Wichita Falls and eat in a restaurant, and if she got lost, she would stop at a service station and ask the man for directions. And if he looked at his friends, and they all shook their heads and laughed the way they did when a woman was helpless, I don't mind bringing something, Maynard said, as long as it's not wine. I've never tasted alcohol, and I don't never intend to. And I don't favor none of them fancy foreign dishes, neither. She would drive to Wichita Falls and eat at a restaurant and get wine. And if it was laughed at her when she asked directions, she would drive around until she found her way home. sleep in the car if she had to. And if a policeman charged her with being vagrant, she would tell him, "I can't come on Thursday," Maynard said. "I watch this television Thursday night." "I got plans." "I thank you kindly, but I got plans," she said. And if the policeman asked her what plans, "What plans?" Maynard asked. His jaw set like he was going to start laughing. If she could drive to Wichita Falls, she could catch a bus to Dallas and fly. Her heart caught in her throat. "To go places I've never been," she said. "You've never been anywhere." "Fly to Africa and see Stella, and maybe even, that's why I'm going now," she said. "Woman like you can't travel alone," he said. "You don't know the first thing about traveling. And if you got somewhere, you would know how to take care of yourself. Maybe even live with the hyenas." Her stomach nodded. If she could live with Albert for 40 years, maybe for a little while, she could live with hyenas. "I can take care of myself," she said. Maynard threw back his head and laughed. She had lived with him her whole life.